The story begins with our main character, Sara, and her father, Don, rushing Marie to the hospital because she is having trouble breathing. Inside, paramedics quickly try to help Marie. They give her oxygen and do everything they can to save her, but the monitor only shows a flat heart line. The story then jumps back 20 years to what looks like a peaceful family dinner. Sara and her sister, Amy, are sitting at the table with their parents, Don and Irene. At first, everything seems fine, but the mood changes when Don shows his controlling behavior. He refuses to let Sara go to a party and makes it clear he's the one in charge of the family. That night, Sara sneaks out with her boyfriend, Chris. Later, her parents find her room empty. Don angrily calls her a problem. At the party, Sara enjoys dancing with Chris. Later, he sings a song he wrote just for her. They tell each other how much they love one another and share a kiss. Sara comes home the next morning. Don has been waiting for her all night. They argue, and Sara tells him that as soon as she turns 18, she will leave the family forever. Later, Sara talks to her mom and sister about her dream to travel across the country while working to support herself. Her dad hears the conversation. Afterward, he goes to the basement and reveals a hidden room behind a bookshelf. 3 months later, Sara graduates. During a conversation with her mom, it's clear that Don has been spending more and more time in the basement, which he calls his man cave. One day, when Irene leaves the house, Don asks Sara to help carry a box to the basement. Once they're down there, he shows her the secret room. He tells her it's a bomb shelter that was built by the last owner. Then, without warning, he locks her inside. Sara screams for help, terrified, but no one can hear her because the shelter is soundproof. Her mother becomes worried and calls the police to report Sara missing. On the 4th day, Don visits Sara in the shelter. He speaks coldly and explains the rules of her new life. From now on, she has to earn everything, even clean air. Before he leaves, Don begins taking advantage of Sara. Later, a police officer comes to the house and tells the family that Sara probably ran away to start the cross-country trip she had talked about. Her mother doesn't believe that. She knows Sara would never leave without saying goodbye, especially not before her 18th birthday. Alone and scared, Sara thinks back to the night she spent with Chris. Days pass. Chris comes to visit the house, looking for her. Don lies to him and says that after graduation, Sara ran away with her childhood neighbor, Steve. On the 21st day of being trapped in the basement, Sara celebrates her 18th birthday. Her dad brings her a cake and a red nightgown as a gift. She asks him for a clock, but he says she has to do something for him before he gives her anything. When she refuses, he beats her. Almost a year into her captivity, Sara is revealed to be pregnant. One day, her water breaks, and completely alone, she gives birth to a baby girl. She names her Marie. 4 years later, Sara is pregnant again. Don is now living a secret double life. One life with his wife, Irene, and daughter, Amy, and another hidden life in the basement with Sara and their daughter, Marie. Still worried about Sara's disappearance, Irene wants to hire a private investigator, but Don refuses and tells her no. As a reward for Sara being good, Don brings a television down to the basement for her and Marie. Later on, Sara gives birth to a second baby, a boy named Michael. One night, Sara turns her horrifying life into a bedtime story. She fills it with princesses and knights and tells it to her children. Chris shows up at the house again, looking for Sara. He asks questions. This time, her sister Amy tells him the truth. Chris realizes that Don had lied to him. Amy and Chris talk about how terrible Don has always been to Sara. Amy even admits that she's afraid Don might have killed her, based on how controlling and angry he can be. To help her children pass the time and escape reality, Sara creates imaginary adventures for them, expanding the fairy tale bedtime story she tells. Meanwhile, Amy and Irene confront Don about his lies. A terrible argument breaks out. Irene is furious and screams that she'll do everything she can to find her daughter. In the middle of the fight, Don drops his keys on the armchair. Amy quickly grabs them and goes to search the basement for clues. Don catches her, gets the keys back, and fights with her. Amy is furious, scared, and blames him for Sara's disappearance. More time passes. Sara gives birth to another baby boy. She names him Thomas. Trying to stay calm and clever, Sara convinces Don to take the third baby upstairs. She explains that there's no more space in the basement and that she doesn't have enough time or energy to care for another baby. Don agrees. He leaves the baby on the porch, where Irene finds him. Inside the basket, there's a heartfelt note that looks like it's from Sara. She says the baby is hers and that she wants Irene to raise him. She writes that she and her boyfriend can't afford to care for the child. Hidden in the basket is also another note from Sara, secretly begging for help. Sadly, Don is the one who finds it first, and he assaults Sara again. Years continue to pass. The children grow up in captivity and develop powerful imaginations. They expand Sara's bedtime stories into creative, magical tales. By now, Sara has been locked in the basement for 14 years. Marie grows into a beautiful young girl. One night, she tries on makeup for fun. Don notices her beauty and becomes interested in her. Sara, terrified, begs him to leave her daughter alone. She's desperate to protect Marie from being abused like she was. In revenge, Don shuts off the electricity, cutting off the clean air supply. As they gasp for breath, Marie tells her mom how sad she is. She's afraid she'll never meet anyone or have real friends. Through their talk, we understand that Marie still doesn't know the terrible truth, that Don is both her grandfather and her father. Now older, Thomas finds his grandmother crying in his mother's bedroom. Irene is heartbroken. She tells Thomas how amazing Sara was and how much she misses her. At the same time, Sara notices raindrops falling from the ceiling. She climbs up and sees that the roof is damp. Using just a spoon, she starts digging toward the surface. Eventually, she manages to flash a distress signal through a small opening. A neighbor sees the signal and tells Don about it. But instead of checking it or helping, Don beats Sara, who is pregnant once again. The beating causes her to lose her baby. As she cries in pain, Sara gives birth to a stillborn. Don takes the baby and buries in the yard. Later, Don goes down to the basement and starts complaining. He also praises Thomas, who is now growing into a strong athlete. When Marie and Michael ask when they will finally be allowed to see the outside world, Don blames Sara. He tells them it's her bad behavior that keeps them trapped down there. Feeling pressured by her children's constant questions about their life, Sara suddenly snaps. In a burst of anger, she yells and destroys all the furniture in the room. Tired and broken, she collapses to the ground and starts thinking about her happiest memories with Chris. Her children gently cover her with a blanket and begin cleaning up their home. They apologize to her. With tears in her eyes, Sara tells them that they're old enough now to hear the truth about why they've been living in captivity. Sara tells them everything. She starts by explaining that her own life was the inspiration for their favorite bedtime story. Carefully and gently, she tells them the truth, that Don is her father, and he is also their father. When Marie hears this painful truth, she has a severe asthma attack. The children begin to feel like something is wrong with them, but Sara comforts them. She tells them that she loves them and that Don is the only one who should be blamed. A year later, something else happens between Don and Michael. It starts after Don insults Sara and mocks her appearance. Don is struggling with money, and the food supply for the basement starts getting low. Soon after, he loses his job. With no money and facing foreclosure, Don decides to kill the family in the basement. He connects his car's exhaust pipe to the air vent leading into the basement. But while he's doing this, Thomas walks into the garage and unknowingly stops his plan, saving their lives. While Don and his above-ground family are having a cheerful barbecue in the yard, Marie is very sick and having trouble breathing. Don still refuses to take her to the hospital. Sara begs him for help and promises not to say a word to anyone. Don finally agrees to take her. Michael is left behind in the basement. 20 years of captivity have passed, and the story catches up to the beginning of the film, when Marie is being rushed to the hospital. Sara is extremely worried about Marie's life. She feels huge relief when the doctors manage to save her. When a nurse asks for Marie's medical history, Sara says that Marie is homeschooled and has only been treated with natural remedies. As she answers, Sara slowly looks around the hospital, searching for a chance to escape, but she looks exhausted and unsure. Then, trying to make a move, Sara spills water on the hospital forms and walks away from Don. Just seconds before he catches up to her, she reaches a nurse and quietly tells her that she needs help. A police officer goes to talk to Don. Not long after, Don is arrested by the police. Sara tells Marie the news. They are safe and free now. The house is soon filled with police. They go to the basement and rescue Michael too. Irene and Thomas are heartbroken when they see Michael struggling to breathe as he's brought out. Don watches everything from the back seat of the police car. Later, on a beautiful summer day, Marie, Thomas, and Michael are playing in the open countryside. Sara, Irene, and Amy sit on the porch of the house, watching them with joy. Then Marie sees someone coming up the driveway. It's Chris. He arrives on his motorcycle. Chris and Sara take a walk together. He tells her he's sorry for not trying harder to find her and for believing the lies her father told. He gives her a special gift, a pink motorcycle helmet he had bought for her when she was 18, back when they had planned to go on an adventure together. Now finally free and happy, the two of them ride off together on the motorcycle, beginning the journey they had always dreamed of.